Yo, 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 what is up, everybody? This is Colin, back at it again with episode 35 of A New Direction, the podcast where I talk about all sorts of stuff, give my opinions, you know the drill. The first thing you might notice is that the video quality is significantly better than it has been in the past, and that is because I actually pulled the little peeling, covering thing off of my webcam lens. It took me this long to get around to doing that. I guess I just didn't notice that it was there, so bear with me, I guess, but the quality should be a lot better, a lot clearer, should actually look 1080p. And then I've also been doing some audio production a little bit more with the audio track, so my vocals should sound a little bit better as well. But with that being said, let's dive right in. It's been a little bit since I've done one of these podcasts now. I think it's been a few months. I'm kind of experimenting with some new content and just I don't know, trying to find what I want to focus on as I continue on with this channel. It's definitely not something I'm abandoning or planning on abandoning or anything like that, but it's just kind of testing the waters and seeing what kind of content I can do. And so I uploaded a video a few days ago, and I guess some of this stuff in this episode will kind of play off of that. So if you haven't watched my Kemper news video, I'll have to catch y'all up a little bit in this episode. But with that being said, we're going to start off with the album recommendation as usual. And this is actually one that I've done before. I want to say I did this within the first 10 episodes of this podcast, way back. This was an album I recommended. It would be Copacetic by Knucklepuck, which is like a pop punk album. I'm really not into pop punk very much. There's not a lot of it that really appeals to me, but something about this album really just speaks to me, and it's something I really enjoy. The production is really nice, very loud, but not in like a bad way. Like, you can hear all the instruments and the different tracks and instruments really stand out in the mix, and the vocals are just really well performed, harmonies and all of that. It's just an excellent album, I think. There's really no bad tracks that I can pick on this one. Some favorites of mine would definitely be Swing, Disdain, Evergreen, Pretense, Wall to Wall. I mean, the whole album's really solid. It would be hard for me to pick like favorites, because I mean, they're all really good, but highly recommend it. Like I said, I'm not really into pop punk like that, so for it to have spoken to me the way it did, I would definitely give it a listen. And I've actually seen Knucklepuck live. Me and my girlfriend went to see them back in March, and they're excellent. Did a really excellent performance. I would definitely go back and see them again. So yeah, Knucklepuck, Copacetic, check it out. It's really good. Definitely atypical from what I would normally recommend, but I can't not recommend it. It's excellent. But with that being said, like I said in the intro, we're going to be talking about kind of music and I guess music technology to an extent, as well as just my experiences with gigging and going to see concerts, and very music episode here. So the first thing I want to talk about, and this is kind of what plays off of the previous video I uploaded, is the idea of digital amps and pedal boards and amp simulators versus like a traditional tube amp. And this is like a very like contentious topic, I would say, in the guitar community. And you know, as many of you probably know, I am very big into guitars and music and performing and writing and recording music, and guitar is my main instrument these days. It used to be drums. I used to be really big into drums. I actually have a really nice electronic drum set that I bought a few years ago with my tax return. I spent my whole tax return on a drum set, which in hindsight was probably not the smartest thing I could have done, but it's cool to have. I'm glad that I bought it, even though it doesn't get used quite how I hoped it would. But these days, guitar is definitely my main instrument, my main focus, I would say, as a musician, whether it be writing and recording, or I guess even researching, like learning about the instrument and the technology and the new hardware and features and new products that are coming out in the market for guitarists. I think there's a lot of good stuff, and it's a really good time to be a guitar player these days. But kind of talking about the digital versus tube amps, it's really like a divided thing. A lot of people swear by tube amps. They're purists. They say they're superior in every way. There are some people who are full digital and are like hard into those digital ecosystems and swear by them as well. And I mean, there are middle grounds as well. I definitely think that in general, the guitar community is very polarized in this sense, and I do think that it doesn't have to be that way. Like, you can effectively utilize digital stuff with tube amps, and even vice versa. Like, you can use tube amps with digital modelers and stuff as a power amp, or there's a variety of different ways to use this technology together in a symbiotic way. But I guess just kind of talking about it in depth, the kind of digital camp. Before I talk about kind of digital stuff, I should say that my experience with digital stuff is not nearly as full as my experience with tube amps. I have 2 tube amps. I love tube amps, and I actually did used to be one of those tube kind of snobs. I'll openly admit it. I love tube amps, swear by them. And in general, I mean, I still love my tube amps, and for playing live, I mean, that is true. Like, there is something very satisfying about having a tube amp and a pedal board, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. But I do have a Line 6 Pod Go, little multi-effects modeling pedal board, and I actually took that with me on vacation. I just came back from vacation a few days ago, and I took that with me down. We went to Florida, and I took that with me and practiced in the rooms while I had my headphones and everything. It was very convenient, and that is another kind of key thing with digital that I think is awesome, is how portable it is. I could never have taken my tube amps down there with me, especially since I have like a half stack. I'm not carrying like a combo. I have like a true 100-watt Marshall head and a 2x12 cabinet. So the portability, I think, is the biggest thing that digital has over tube amps, the convenience. But just kind of diving into what digital like encompasses, there are really 2 main types of digital amp simulations. There's modelers and there's profilers. So modelers, up until I would say like fairly recently, have been like the go-to, and that's not to say profilers haven't existed, and the Kemper is a great example of that, and I'll talk a little bit about that. But modelers have predominantly been like what the market has been focused on, and essentially they use like a computer algorithm, and these different parts of tube amps are modeled digitally, and an algorithm is used to simulate how an amp would react, and that's essentially what the modeler does. It's like simulating an amp, and that's why, like with a modeler, you can change the EQ on the tone stack, and there's different gain stages that are modeled digitally, and so you can shape your tone like you would a real amp. And so good examples of modelers, the fractal stuff, the Axe Effects is probably at the top. Very expensive, but very high quality, very in-depth. There's a lot of parameters and stuff in there that you can change. The Line 6 Helix stuff, the HX Stomp, the Helix LT, even the HX Effects and stuff like that, they're all modelers. Very popular modelers as well. Probably most people's like introduction to the modeling world, I would say, especially like in my case, I am in that Line 6 ecosystem with my Pod Go. Some other examples is like the Headrush stuff. The Headrush Prime just came out to some mixed reviews, it seemed like to me. But I know there's a lot of different, I mean, Ampero, NUX, there's a whole bunch of modelers that you can buy right now. And I think modeling is very impressive. I definitely think it's come a long way since the early 2000s and even late 90s era of modeling with like the original Line 6 like pod stuff. It's a way different ball game, definitely far superior in the present day than what it used to be. And then on the other side of the coin, you have profilers, which are, they like take a snapshot of an amp. So like you mic up your amp and get it into a nice mic, nice preamp, and a profiler will essentially capture like a snapshot of that amp. And profilers are impressive in the sense that they're incredibly difficult to like differentiate between the tube amp and the profiler, assuming you get a good profile. And so as long as everything is done correctly and you get an accurate snapshot. I mean, it is very difficult to discern the difference. I mean, I'm certain there are things that you would be able to tell, and especially like being them side by side in person in a room, you would probably tell a bit of a difference here and there, but generally they're like 98% of the way there, I would say. Like, they're incredibly close. And so I think that's why profiling is so popular. Like the Kemper, which is what I talked about in my previous video, they're really popular because like you can have a bunch of different amps that you may never be able to own, like a Dumble or a Soldano, or whatever kind of amp you dream of playing through. You can pretty much do that through a profiler and have a almost true to life like replication of it. So I think that's why they're popular. And I think like the digital stuff, like it's incredible what it's able to do. Both modelers and profilers, I think that they've really like revolutionized the gear scene in the modern era for guitar players. And I really don't think it should be like digital versus tube amps. That seems to be like the common debate. Like, do I sell my tube amps and buy a digital thing, or do I I don't like my digital thing, so I'm going back to tube amps. And I mean, it's all preference ultimately, but I don't think it should be like this against this. I think it should really be like, how can these things work together? Or, if you personally prefer a digital, setup, then, there's nothing wrong with that. Like, I feel like there's a lot of animosity even on both sides of the coin. People are like kind of elitists in their own, interests. And I mean, that seems to be true with everything in life, really. But I don't think it should be, one side versus the other. Like, they can intermingle quite well. I think that the fact that you see a lot of people run modelers like via the 4 cable method into the effects loop of their amps specifically for the effects processing is a great example. Like, these things can work together and be very symbiotic. It doesn't have to be one against the other. And so that was just kind of my opinion. I don't think that I don't really necessarily think one is better than the other. I don't have a lot of experience with digital stuff, like I said, but I've definitely kind of lost the more elitist views on tube amps that I've had over time, especially seeing how this technology has advanced. And I'm actually looking to get a digital kind of rig, whether that be like a Kemper or an Axe-Fx or something like that. And that's kind of going to lead us into the next topic here, which is my gigging experiences. Now, admittedly, I don't have a lot. I'm not like some prolific musician or anything, but I have played some gigs locally, and both in my town as well as like the bigger metro area, very close to my hometown. And I have had some experience with shows and playing and everything. And personally, like, it's my dream to be a gigging musician, or like a professional musician. If I could do anything in the world, that's what I would love to do. And even not even just like money wise, like, I know it's not like a lucrative career, but it's just what I enjoy. I love performing music, playing music, writing music, and being immersed in music is just what I love. And so being able to play gigs and stuff is very important to me, and I don't know, it's very like strange being in the position of being on the stage, whereas I'm so used to watching other people be on the stage from the crowd. Like, me being the person on the stage making music, like, it's very, maybe strange isn't the right word, but like, it's very like I don't know, hit your spirit, I guess. But yeah, like my gigging experience, so prior to the present day, I played a few shows in 2019 before the whole shutdown thing happened, and I play with my brother's band Acid, which I have shouted out before, and I'll leave a link in the description for the Bandcamp and everything, and the YouTube channel if y'all would like to check out some of the music and the videos of the performances and stuff. But yeah, I'm still continue to play with them to this day, and I also would love to perform my own thing, and have been working on writing music and trying to get that off the ground as well. But we played a few gigs back in 2019, nothing very big, very small venues. In fact, it was a bar, like a bar, and like it was like a bar attached to a hotel, and there was no real like advertising for it. There was like a battle of the bands that happened at this place, but it was not very like prolific, I guess. There was not a lot of people there, but that was like our first shows. We had one that was more of almost like a rehearsal gig, to be honest, and then we had the actual Battle of the Bands. So I guess that was 2 shows, and then there was a long hiatus through the shutdown. Didn't get together, didn't play anything. Now my brother and Parth did release some new music through that time, but it was nothing that we performed or really had the opportunity to perform. But starting 2022 was really when we got back on track, and we played a music festival in our hometown. We got lucky and got a good connection with a local musician who plays in gigs quite a lot, and he offered to play with us and get us set up. So played that. It was awesome. And then last month? What is this month? May? Yeah. I'm kind of tripping right now. But yes, in April we played another gig, and that was up in the metro area that I had talked a little bit about. Definitely a different vibe. It was like an outdoor venue. It was like there's like a bar attached to that as well, but it was like an outdoor venue. It was outside, and it was a cool area, to be honest. And we had a pretty good turnout. The other bands that we met there, who one of them had invited us to play with them, they were really cool people, really nice people. Definitely good networking opportunity there, just to meet some new musicians from the local area who also play music. And yeah, it was fun. Enjoyed it. Thought it was probably, I don't know, it's hard for me to say it was a better show than the first one that we played back in 2022, but I think I enjoyed it personally a little bit more. And then that kind of leads us to now, but we also have another show that is we're kind of working on scheduling that'll be later in the year, August, September, October, somewhere in that area. So definitely getting it off the ground, which is important, and getting our name out there. We've emailed a lot of venues and are kind of working on the networking side, and that's like, as any gigging musician will find, like, that is the biggest part. It's like a business. Like, you have to put money into it and reinvest and network, and you know, it's really important that you kind of get your name out there, because otherwise you're really not going to get shows. You're not going to have the opportunity to play in other places, and that's just kind of how you go, how it kind of evolves on its own. And I'm excited to play this next one, and would like to perhaps have a digital rig at that point, because one of the biggest things I've learned through gigging is that it's very, very tedious to carry such heavy and large equipment around. And I don't know, every gig is different, like, at least so far. Like, I mean, I'm sure, like, if you're on like a tour, like, it's pretty streamlined with like subtle variations, but all the gigs we played have been different from one another. Audio wise, sound system wise, just the whole shebang. The last gig we played, like, we had some issues with like feedback from the microphone. I assume it had to do with like the proximity of the amps to the microphone and everything. So we had some feedback issues, and then I at one point actually like lost power to my pedal board, because I have a little isolated, it's like an MXR mini ISO brick that is under my under my pedal board, that I like velcroed under there, and it's just long enough that it kind of protrudes under the bottom of the base of the pedal board. And so, like, I guess as I was kicking the pedals and, you know, getting them on and off, like the plug came unplugged, and so I like completely lost power to my pedal board during one of the songs, like midway through, and I had no idea what was going on, and I like had to mime what I was doing, and I was getting no audio, but I ended up fixing it on the spot, making up for it, and came back in at the right time. I got lucky. But you know, it's stuff like that. Like, that was a first compared to like the first gig we played back in September 2022. That one was much smoother. It had no issues with power or really anything, to be honest. Like, it was like for us, it was like about as perfect a performance as you could get, I felt. Yeah, it's been an experience just kind of getting out there and playing. The first gig was fun. Definitely had more merch sales. We sell like CDs and stickers and stuff like that, and we're going to be having shirts hopefully for the next one. But definitely had more merch sales. It was more like official, I would say. Like, there were like actual merch tables, and there was like a bar, and it was cool. Like, it was a really cool venue, really cool gig. The first one I think was better, in the sense that it was a better venue, more professional feeling. But the second one was just like a lot of fun, even though I lost power. Parth actually broke a string on his main guitar during sound check, so he had to use a backup guitar that we were fortunate enough to have brought. We called it. I had broke a string during our last rehearsal before the show, and then Parth ended up breaking one during the sound check. So it's almost like we were cursed or something. But, you know, stuff like that happens. It's just the way the cookie crumbles, especially when it comes to the live music kind of performance sort of thing. You know, nothing's ever going to be perfect. So I'm definitely excited to see what new opportunities we might have. Definitely learned a lot. Like I said, like transporting all the heavy ass gear is not fun. My tube amps especially. The Marshall head is like, I don't know, like it's chunky. Like it's the cabinet is considerably lighter than the head, which I guess is to be expected, but like it's always shocking. Like I'm going to like carry it off and was like struggling, my arms hurting, my shoulders hurting. I'm like, damn, this thing weighs too much. And I mean, it does sound good. It's worth the hassle for the sound, but I guess that's kind of ultimately like why people do switch to digital, is like for almost comparable sound quality, you get much more convenience. And that personally is why I'm looking perhaps at getting a digital rig. I think that the convenience outweighs the negligible difference in sound quality, especially like in a venue with a good sound system. Now, I kind of would have been screwed a little bit at our last gig if I had a modeler, because the PAs that we had, one of the bands brought them, and you know, they fortunately like brought like a sound system, so they had the PAs and brought like a big mixer board and everything. But had they not been there and brought that stuff, like we kind of would have been out of luck. Like if I had a modeler, you know, I would not have been able to really get any sort of sound whatsoever. So I guess that is another like good thing about tube amps. Like they're consistent. You're gonna get sound with a cabinet. You're gonna be able to project. So you don't have to worry as much about the PA and all that. But most venues, I feel like, are going to have a PA of some sort. So I guess that kind of just depends on where you're playing at. But for me personally, like I'm excited to see kind of what the new opportunities are going to be. I know the show that we're trying to work on booking right now is at a venue with a PA with like the last place we played at didn't even have monitors, and it wasn't like a stage or anything. Like we were ground level. And so this next venue has monitors, you know, I think has like an actual stage at least to play on. So that will be dope, assuming that everything works out there. And, you know, it's kind of like I'm saying with networking, just getting your name out there, playing at increasingly more well-known venues, and just, you know, having a good time. That's what it's about. It's having fun. You know, I don't like expect to get paid a lot of money, and we don't. For playing, like negligible payment, but the experience is fun, and it's always cool to be like, I don't know, to be standing up there playing and being like, I'm like making these people's days right now. Like they're having a great time listening to the music. They're, you know, hearing them clap and applaud if they like it, and it's really, I don't know, it feels good. I guess it's fun to know that like I'm creating like a memory for these people. But yeah, that kind of encompasses like my gigging experiences and overall just kind of like, as a budding musician, what my experience has been so far. I definitely think that there's a lot of luck involved with getting gigs and meeting the right people to get off the ground. You know, it's easy you can write music and record and play a lot of music, but if you're not, you know, meeting the right people or getting lucky in that sense to make the connections, I really don't think you're going to be as successful getting it off the ground. Like persistence is important, but there's also some luck involved. So I'm fortunate in that sense. I'm very lucky, and I'm happy with how things have turned out. I'm excited to see what the future will hold for us. But yeah, that's my gigging experience, and kind of a little bit more about why I want to switch to a digital setup, the convenience. But that kind of transitions into the last topic that I want to talk about, which is just live music in general. The shows that I've been to, like kind of more standout and notable shows that I've seen, and you know, my performances and stuff like that. So I've been to quite a few concerts. I think my first one was back in 2018, so I would have been, I don't even know how long ago was that, 22, 4, 5 years ago. So I would have been 15, which, I was kind of a late start with it when it came to concerts, because, I know people who were going at a very young age. But my first concert was a show that my dad has a coworker who was in a band at the time, and they were playing. I don't know, remember if they were headlining, or I think they were one of the openers. But they were playing a show at a pretty well-known venue in the local metro area. It's a pretty, I've seen a lot of bands play there, big bands. So it was cool. Went, saw him, got the barrier, had a great time. And that was my first concert, was my first sort of experience with live music, and that really set the ball rolling, I should say. From then on, I was kind of all into live music, was trying to go see as many shows as I could. And given that I was a freshman in high school, it was a little difficult, but we made it work. I've seen a lot of bands. I've seen Deaf Heaven quite a few times. Me and my family, a good memory. It was me and my mom, my dad, my brother. We went to Maryland, to Silver Springs, Maryland, to see Deaf Heaven. They played with Baroness. It was a co-headlining tour, and it was awesome. One of the best shows I've been to, for sure. Deaf Heaven puts on a killer performance every time I see them. Love their music. Even if I'm not so fond of their latest album, Infinite Granite, but I do really love Deaf Heaven. They're incredibly talented, and have had a very big inspiration as far as how I write my own music. And I think that's something I've talked about before, just how learning their songs affected my guitar playing and helped me become a better guitarist and shaped kind of how I play today. But Deaf Heaven, excellent. Godspeed You Black Emperor, some of the best shows I've ever been to, bar none. The only other show I can think of that was better than the Godspeed concerts I've been to is probably Mayhem. And that's just because I'm a huge black metal fan, love Mayhem, and had the opportunity to see them live, and it was awesome. Played a lot of songs from De Mysteries, which is, classic album, my favorite album, probably of all time. And so just to be able to see them play that stuff live was awesome. But Godspeed is just on a different level. It's less of a concert and more of a spiritual experience almost. They're creating these incredibly massive soundscapes and have all these people on the stage playing instruments, and I remember the first one of them that I went to see, their guitarist, we were right at the barrier pretty much, and one of the guitarists was right in front of us, and he had 2 huge pedal boards just jam-packed full of pedals, and dude was using all of them, and he had a bridge in the middle, some sort of, I'm assuming it was some sort of stereo unit of some sort, but dude was clicking through everything, and maybe it was a MIDI controller. But dude was just going through the whole process. They were all using tube amps and big pedal boards, and they sound killer every time. They've got the violin player and the upright bass and the 2 drummers, and Godspeed is just next level. If you've never seen or even heard of them, go listen to their music. Godspeed is on a different level, and I every time they come even remotely close to where I live, I'm going to see them, because it is something you cannot miss. And the openers, actually, for both of the times I've seen Godspeed, they have the same opener as a band called Manus, I believe, and they're also next level. It's 2 people, and the whole set, it's a 45-minute set, and the whole thing is improv, and their drummer is nuts, is a machine, and they have homemade instruments. The guitar player has a pedal board and a synth of some sort, and then he's got homemade instruments that he bows, and I don't even know, dude. Manus is also crazy and incredibly atmospheric. It's awesome. Godspeed and whoever they're opening with always put on a killer show, and like I said, it's more of an experience than a concert. And then Mayhem was also, like I said, probably my favorite show I've been to, and I think a lot of that just has to do with the fact that I love their music. Excellent, big crowd for sure, and bought a patch or some patches. I was kind of broke at the time, so I didn't get to get any shirts or anything like that, but It was awesome. Mayhem was killer. Very tight live. And I actually DM'd the guitar players on Instagram after the show, and Ghoul, who was one of them, he actually like responded back, which was dope. So, that's cool. Didn't get to meet them or anything like that, but maybe next time. And then that was the last show that I went to for like a band that I really, really like. One of my favorite bands, I should say. But I've been to quite a few concerts subsequently. Me and Piper go quite a bit. We've seen... Who have we seen? We've seen Mom Jeans, Knuckle Puck, Oso Oso. What else have we seen? There's a artist she really likes called Soccer Mommy it was a really good show. We saw them at all this stuff like occurred up in the metro area. But all really good shows. Really loved a lot of the music I heard, and even though it's not something I personally listen to, it's awesome experience, be able to go and be in that energy. And I find it's very interesting to see like the difference between like the crowds and stuff between like different genres of music, because all like going to see Godspeed and Death Heaven and Mayhem, like there's no like, the crowd is very different than like from these like pop punk and kind of Midwest emo / hardcore / punky sort of stuff. Crowds are very different. It's very interesting. A whole lot of people crowd surfing and big mosh pits and stuff at these like more punky shows versus like, I remember going to see Mayhem and there's like no mosh pit. Like we were just like the same thing with Godspeed. Like people were just like transfixed on the music, but everybody's like super nice. Like both crowds everybody's really nice. No animosity or any mean people to really speak of whatsoever. Music is a beautiful thing. I mean, it brings people together, and I really think that it's something that everybody should really take the time to get into. I've heard people say like that they don't like music, it's just not their thing, and I don't know. I think maybe they just haven't found the kind of music they like, haven't found something that really speaks to them. But I don't know. Music's awesome. I've loved every bit of experience and memories and everything that I've learned through being a musician and from being deeply into music. I really think there's a lot of awesome stuff that I've discovered, and I've spent way too much money and just in general, like, I don't know, music is a wonderful thing, and I consider myself very fortunate to have had the opportunities with music that I've had, being able to go see shows and play shows and play gigs and stuff like that. Like it's really fun and very fulfilling, and ultimately, like I said, it's what I would love to do with my life as a career, even not for the money, but just for the fact that it's my genuine love and care of music, and the fact that I like being able to share that through what I do. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of the gist of, I guess, this episode. Music is very important in my life, and at the very least, I hope that maybe y'all gleaned some sort of cool information or enjoyed the stories or whatever. Definitely, like I said at the start of the episode, like I'm definitely not like abandoning this channel. It has been a little difficult trying to find time to make content, just with work and stuff and being in school and all that. But summertime is here, and hopefully I can kind of get more consistent with this and try to really nurture a community here, because I don't know, YouTube is fun. I like making content. So with that being said, that pretty much concludes this episode, and I hope that y'all enjoyed it, found something cool, and leave a like, subscribe, hit the bell icon, but on some real, thanks for watching, and I will see y'all in the next one. The next one, I'm not sure if it'll be like a podcast or some other video, but rest assured the podcast will continue. It's not dead. So with that being said, I've been Colin. I hope you enjoyed. Peace.